Welcome to the Paul and Wayne Show, Dice, Law and War, the podcast where two grown men attempt to discuss tabletop gaming with dignity, only to be immediately undermined by dice rolls, questionable tactics, and the occasional rules argument that no one asked for.
I'm Paul, and this is Wayne, or possibly the other way around, depending on who's holding the microphone correctly this week.
Together, we'll explore war games, role-playing worlds, and whatever a hobby project has distracted us most recently. Expect bold claims, poor decisions, and the kind of strategic insight that makes generals everywhere quietly close the tab.
So settle in, adjust your expectations accordingly, and join us for another episode of Dice, Law and War, where enthusiasm is high, competence is variable, and the dice remain our most consistent enemies.
Tales from the Tavern.
So we've made our way to the tavern, and where we've got a couple of tankards full of frothing beer, and it's time to discuss.
That was me clanging a mug. It didn't have the effect we were looking for.
I think that counts as a fail to start with.
Definitely.
In our very first episode. So that's the way we're going to go with this. And we're going to have a little chinwag over our beer about our journey with rank and flank gaming from the start of Old World. But first of all, just a bit of background on where we come from. So I played Warhammer, and I think it might even have been first edition as a quite young child many years ago, and then I didn't play any more. Well, I think we moved house. The person I played with I was then miles away from. We moved house, and I then didn't play anything until maybe I played Hero Quest a little bit, but then didn't play anything until the start of Age of Sigmar, which is when I got back into it.
Right.
So let's just say at that point I'm rank and flank curious.
Yeah. So my background would be I played Warhammer Fantasy Battle 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th edition. I the proper die hard. Always loved rank and flank. No matter what the problems with the editions were, I loved it all. It was great.
So you must be brilliant at all these games after all that time of playing. I mean,
No. I can say that I've definitely made a career out of failure. No, I've never. There was a spell actually in a lot of people know me. I can laugh at this, but there was a spell in 2004 when I won the Weymouth War in a singles tournament.
You won a tournament?
I won a tournament,
wow.
Yeah. I played a lot back then, and I'd have to say that was why I didn't consider myself as a top player, but I could play. I was decent enough then. But that was the kind of one period in my life.
Pinnacle.
That was yeah. I'd peaked at that point. Let's just say that, yeah.
Nothing to prove after that.
And after that, it was all downhill.
So we come forward. So Wayne's extremely experienced, and we ended up at the same club. And we got into gaming together. And some people may remember a certain person called Dan Heelan, who was kind of dropping out of gaming a little bit, but still going at that stage.
Yeah.
But you and I started to spend a lot more time playing games, and Old World was coming out.
And I got so excited. I was like, because they've been talking about it for years, hadn't they? And they were like, that was kind of like, oh, is it going to go? And obviously there was a release date, and they had an open day at Nottingham.
Yeah, we went up to Nottingham, and we stood in a big queue in the cold.
Yeah, it's like being a teenager again. It was like, but it was So we stood in the queue. We waited to go in, and we went in, and it was
It was really exciting,
amazing.
Wasn't it? Because there was this great diorama of Tomb Kings.
The castle
attacking.
Yeah.
Who was it? Was it Bretonnians?
Yeah, Bretonnians.
They were
Bretonnian castle. Yeah, it was incredible.
And there was all sorts of games, and all the books were there and everything.
Yeah. They had some guys from America that came down, and they'd set up a big sort of gaming table, and there was games going on actually. Just a normal table with people who just got the rule book out, and they just started playing, and. Yeah, it was brilliant. And I thought,
we were all in, weren't we?
Yeah,
at this point, we were
100%,
all in.
Yeah, 100%. We were all in. It was kind of like, and my plan was to paint every army.
I remember that.
To do all of the 9 armies that were supported, and to do all the legacy armies as well.
Yeah.
So that was the plan. And I actually started doing that. I painted four armies. So and we played, and I think in total I probably had about 50 games because I played.
Okay, did you play that much?
Yeah, I played with Tomb Kings, Skaven, Bretonnians. I played a couple of games of VC, Vampire Counts, and
And we gave it a really good go, didn't we? I didn't play that much, but I played a fair few games.
Yeah. We even ran a tournament.
We ran a tournament because we were running tournaments for Age of Sigmar, so we thought this is great. We'll try some different systems, so that's a good option for it.
Yep.
And that went reasonably well, but there were already question marks over our enjoyment of the game at that point, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, predominantly I was playing Skaven, obviously, as anyone knows. I mean, the Square Base guys have done an amazing job with the legacy packs, and kind of making those armies play. Because even though I don't really play Old World anymore, I still keep my ear to the ground and hear what's going on. It sounds like they're doing a great job of it, but it was hard. Playing with Skaven then was really hard. So I started playing Bretonnians, and obviously they were much better.
But it wasn't just that, was it? We were struggling with the density of the rules. So I know from a personal point of view,
yes,
I spent most of every game with my head in the book, and discussing, and it, like anyone I was playing with, it was really hard to get to an agreement on what the rules, and so some of the stuff that just didn't sit right with me. So units running away through terrain, through other units, and ending up in an entirely different part of the board. And I know this is something that happened in Warhammer Fantasy, but it just didn't feel good at all to me. And that's not that. These are not criticisms of that game. I think it was just too big for us. Well, it's too big for me.
Yeah, it wasn't
too many rules, too much difficulty, too much interpretation.
It wasn't an experience I was looking for. Because I thought, you go for that sort of, because let's face it, the idea of the game coming out was that they would take all the best of the previous editions and put it together and then put some new things in and make it work. I always thought that was a mistake. I would have loved it if they'd taken 8th edition, cleaned it up, sorted all the things that were wrong with 8th edition, made that better, and then gone with that. I think that would have been a much better option because it had been played to death, that edition. So it would have been a fairly straightforward thing to just clean it up.
But I suppose they needed it. They wanted it to be a new start, didn't they?
But I think
I don't want to go too far down the line of talking too much about the old world, because what happened at this point is we kind of started to drift away from it, and then we tried a few other things, didn't we, to see if we could get the kind of what we wanted. And we should stress that we haven't played it since there's been various changes, and people have said it's much improved. Yeah,
so we played up to the infantry rules. So when the infantry rules were changed and obviously made infantry better, we haven't played it past that point. So
then we went to Salute.
Yes.
Then we went to Salute, and we went and impulse buying me went, right, let's buy Kings of War.
Yes.
So we bought Kings of War.
But also at Salute, what happened was we saw a stall there, Rock Minis.
Yes.
And Rock Minis, who's no longer training, I believe. And Rock Minis was great. He was great. So he specialised in 10 mil. The scale that Warmaster, if anyone's played Warmaster, and the models that have been produced. So it's like Forest Dragon Minis was a lot of the armies. There was other creators as well, but Forest Dragon Minis, they made brilliant 10 mil stuff, and it's all in the style of old Warhammer. So we bought an army each, didn't we? You bought Bretonnians, and I bought Skaven, and because of the way Kings of War works, where it's on a multi-model base, but it's the base.
It's like a mini diorama, isn't it, for each unit?
You don't take models off. When you lose the unit, you lose the whole base.
Yeah,
works fantastic for any scale. So then we kind of just adapted 10 mil, playing Kings of War in 10 mil. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
we really enjoyed that.
We enjoyed it. Yeah.
Really good fun game.
Still wasn't quite. Still didn't quite have exactly what we want. I think we might go back to it at some stage because we did enjoy it.
But we had no intention of playing it in 28 mil, did we? We never had any intention of playing it 28 mil, but somehow 10 mil seems right. And we did a battle report, didn't we? We did a random battle report, and actually it was one of the most
on the UG Hobby channel.
Shameless plug. But it was well received. Yeah. It was a really well, for the numbers that we're getting, it was really well received. And actually, but it's a lot of fun to play in 10mm because we even had a smaller board. So what we did was basically we took the Kings of War rules, instead of anything being inches, it was centimetres, and then all the other rules were the same. And then we just made a board. So rather than playing on a 6x4 board, traditional 4x4, I scaled a board down. I think it was it 800mm by 400.
Nobody cares about that way.
Yeah, but it was
it was square.
But it was small. Wasn't
Yes,
it?
it's a small board.
You could put it on
Yes.
any sort of dining room table, and then you could play a what felt like a full size rank and flank game in 10mm. It was great.
It was.
So then from there.
So then I think was it you? I think might have been you that went. Oh, I found this new one called Oathmark.
So I've been looking at Oathmark for a while.
And I'm like,
I hadn't bought
I've got another one.
I hadn't bought anything, I don't think, had I? And then I was, who bought the rule?
Oh, hang on, is this a me story
right,
where you mentioned something and then I've suddenly bought it?
So this needs to be said. Me and Paul, when it comes to buying things, are very different. So I will go, right, I'm going to buy this. I'll go up to this. I'll pick it up at the store. I'll look at it. I'll look at it and I'll procrastinate and I'll just varicate and all that. And then I'll talk myself out of it and I'll put it back on the shelf. And then I won't buy it. Right?
Yeah.
Paul was the opposite.
It's really annoying.
Paul was spent the money before he gets there. He's literally like, to the point that I've diverged a bit, but to the point that when you bought Gods of Athena, because you were in such a rush to buy it, you didn't actually go on the Gods of Athena website on North Star Minis and actually get the discounted version.
I bought the more expensive one
and
then found out a bit later after doing research after I'd bought it.
Because we were at a tournament, we were in a hotel room. He goes, I just bought it. I goes, did you get it from North Star Minis? Did you get it from go on to Osprey or whatever? And he's like, what? I said, I'm sure there'd be discount on North Star Minis. And then you went on there, he's like, it's cheaper.
Anyway. And there was one point where you... we were running our tournament and I'm sat at the TO's desk. Yeah. And you looked at an army and you came back and I hadn't moved, but I was reading a new book.
Yeah, so he literally, I reckon I'd gone between longer than 5 minutes, but less than 10 to just look at this army for painting school. Come back, Paul's sitting there reading the Frostgrave rule book. And I'm like, where did you get that? He said, I just bought it. He literally did. Just got. So we are polar opposites when it comes to our purchases.
So I probably bought Oathmark rules first.
I think I talked about it and you bought it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. Yeah.
And then I bought it.
Yeah.
And then we had our first game, and
that was it, wasn't it?
That was it. Yeah. We absolutely loved it. It was one of them games where it's very easy to learn, but there's a lot more to it than it's kind of, the more you play it, the more you enjoy it.
So it's that simple rules set, but lots of tactical depth.
Yes.
And it's got the activation that I really like, which is the back and forth activation.
Yeah. So you take turns at activating units. So it's not like I go, you. It is I go, you go, but it's one unit at a time.
Yeah.
But there's subtle little things in the game which are great. So if you fail on activation, you still get to do so if you pass an activation, you get to do two things. So you can move twice, or you can move and shoot. Or you can move into combat and you fight the combat. So, or you can move twice, but each combat is one at a time.
Yeah.
So you don't get kind of units piling in as such. It's like as soon as you make contact, you resolve that combat.
Then they separate.
They're both activated, but then another unit which hasn't been activated could come in and fight one of those units that's been activated, and then you resolve that combat again. So, really smooth rules set, great for movement because units that want to move around terrain, as long as they've got enough movement, they kind of break into skirmish and they reform on the other side. So it makes that whole. It's just Joseph McCulloch.
Elegant, isn't it?
Joseph McCulloch wrote rules. He wrote the Frostgrave rules as well, and Stargrave, and just a really, really enjoyable game. I mean, I don't know how well played Oathmark is, but if you ever get a chance to try it. And
the second edition is coming out in August.
Yes.
So we're quite excited for that.
Yeah, I think it's due the end of August, is it? 20th or it's a later.
I'm pretty sure it's the end of August.
Yeah. So
and we do have an Oathmark battle report on the UG Hobby channel.
We do.
Which we just put out. So if you want to have a quick look, it doesn't show you all the mechanics of the game the way we do our battle reports, but it gives you a flavour of it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go completely into the game at the moment. This might be something that we revisit and go into more depth when the second edition comes out.
Yeah.
And we talk about the game a lot more. Although it'll be mentioned lots for hobby, etc. One thing we probably should mention before we finish this section is the army building. you can have dwarves with elves, with undead, with orcs and goblins, and you make up your own stories behind that. There's no set lore. You make up your own lore, and some people might be going, "Oh, well, that that sounds terrible," but actually, we found it's got really good kingdom building.
You basically have a circle
mechanic.
10 terrain features. So you pick your centre of city. So it could be an elf city, dwarf city, an orc city, a goblin city, an undead city, and then you pick your terrain. But the terrain can be picked from any list. So you basically build your 10, and that shows what's actually the terrain within your kingdom, and that terrain unlocks the unit choices. So as Paul just said, you can kind of, you can have a very varied, you can have like an evil army. You can paint like an evil army, but it could be evil elves and evil dwarves, and some skeletons in there, and some orcs, and and they're kind of big band of like bad guys.
And some of them could be mercenaries, or you make up your own lore,
and you just make it up.
Orcs could be like nobles and things like that. So,
I'm doing the ratmen I'm doing for it, but they're based on the human stats. But I'm currently going through creating a different lore for them, which isn't Skaven lore. It's over time I'll build up a different kind of flavour to them.
And at some point we can talk about the backgrounds, because mine's a feudal Japanese style, and we can talk about the lore behind those. But anyway, we've rambled on enough in this particular part. So that's our journey from where we've got to in our sort of rank and flank gaming. So thank you for listening to that.
The Lore Lounge.
Throughout the cold peace of the night, the inhabitants of the old world dream their private dreams of life and death, of power and fear, and the vagaries of existence. Few, however, dream that whilst they sleep, the lives of others continue apace beneath their homes, under the earth amongst the ancient sewers, drains, and workings of inhuman origin. This is the domain of the Skaven, lords of decay, the foul brood of Chaos Ratmen.
Right, so we've made our way down into the Lore Lounge, and we're all settled, ready for a bit of narrative lore here. And Wayne, basically what you've done is you've tricked me into doing an entire podcast just so you can talk about the origins of Skaven. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So here we are, and this comes from a magazine. Would you call it a magazine?
So the original, when we say lore, so what we're going to talk about is the original sort of founding of the Skaven, the original, when people first heard about them. This is certainly when I first heard about them. So this initial article comes from the Citadel Journal, spring 1986. Now, the Skaven models themselves, there was 10 released at the end of 1985, but they were just 10 models, a picture of them, you could buy them. They were £1.50 for 3, I think they were at the time, £1.50 for 5 maybe. But it wasn't until the spring of 86 that when the Citadel Journal was released, there was a whole article in there that was, so the actual figures themselves were sculpted by Jess Goodwin. So there was a wider range of models. It went up to 19 metal models. Back then everything was metal. And there was also an article that Jess had written, which was the origins of the Skaven. And it went into pretty similar to what we know now with the Skaven, with the clans and the Council of 13 and the Horned Rat, but just a kind of a simpler version, if you like, of because this was the start of it.
And for those that don't know or have been living under a house or a rock somewhere, Skaven are basically ratmen.
Yes.
So some people may be coming from a historical background or something like that. So the Skaven are the ratmen, and we're actually this is the second scenario. I believe the first one is the Terror of the Lichmaster.
So the Terror of the Lichmaster was, so there was a series of campaigns with the Lichmaster, but they were predominantly undead. So the Vengeance of the Lichmaster was a scenario that was written for this journal to kind of introduce the Skaven race from a gaming sense.
And this is the return of Heinrich Kemmler.
Yes.
Or Wizard with Hat, as he became at the start of Age of Sigmar.
He did, yes, Wizard with Hat. So and that's not the original Kemmler model. the original Kemmler model was actually in this journal as well. So
okay.
it was actually a different model. So
Did he have a hat?
he did have a hat
Oh, good.
and a staff. Yes, very impressive hat. Yeah, you can't have Kemmler without the hat. He just doesn't look right. So in this journal we had the models, we had the background lore, which is very similar. The only war machine as such back then was the flamethrower. So the warp fire flamethrower was it at the time. There wasn't. It was a few years later the Giselles and so forth came out, but originally it was wizards and heroes and clan rats and warp fire throwers, and that was pretty much it. You didn't have all the kind of Eshin's. You had the descriptions of the clans as such, so you had kind of you had descriptions of plague sensors and warpstone charms and poison.
I'm going to butt in at this stage and just say to anyone listening that Wayne is clutching this magazine like a small child who's got like sweets that he's not usually allowed.
This is one of my most prized possessions because this is where it all started for me. I was 14 years old.
This is from 1986.
1986, yeah. I picked this up in 1986. I looked at it, and obviously I was into Warhammer then. It was second edition. I had a dwarf army, and I picked this up. Saw the Chaos ratmen. I mean, they were called Skaven, but it was kind of the first one was Chaos ratmen. Saw this, and that was me done, and that's pretty much been done for the last 40 years.
Can confirm.
Yeah. So and anyone that knows me will know that yes, and this was the start of it. It really was. It was the artwork, the lore, the whole feel of it was just amazing. So back then you had a minor and a major hero. You had 3 levels of wizard. 4 levels of wizard. And some descriptions. So you used to be able to give the units potions. So you could actually every unit you could give a champion a potion, and that would give a little buff to the unit, maybe make them fight a little better or something like that. And so it was kind of like the early days. But the warp scrolls that was in the original descriptions, and potions. So but you rolled randomly. So if you
so you couldn't choose what you had.
It was the chaotic.
I like a bit of
it.
randomness.
Yeah, and so. You would have so every Ratman leader would have a potion. You would roll a d6, and then you would get varying degrees. So you might get +2 leadership, or you might get +2 willpower. Willpower obviously not a thing anymore, but obviously it was a stat line that was used back in the day. They might get hatred. They might get frenzy. 6 was nothing happens. Dud.
And how big were the armies at this stage that you used to play with? Because I didn't play at this point.
As big or small as you wanted, really. I mean, some of the armies, you could set armies up.
Was there a points level?
No, not really. I mean, no, because for example, in this, there's no points values for. There is points values, but back then we didn't. I don't know. It wasn't that important. There wasn't like a set. Like nowadays, there's a 2,000 point is kind of standard for everyone and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't back then. You kind of just played what you want to play. You just got your models down and just And you talk. Back then I was 14 years old, and it was just like you just got your models on the table and you just played and just had fun. Saying so when I said about the 4 levels of wizard, so a level 1 wizard would be 50 points, and then but it was plus 10 points per spell. So you pay extra for the spells, but then it goes 72.5 points. Half points are quite funny actually. You don't see it anymore, do you? 72.5 points for level 2, 195 for level 3, and 360 for level 4. So they did go up in price pretty steeply. But then the if you had a basic Skaven was 4.5 points. A champion was.
I love that 4.5 points.
Yes, that half point used to matter.
Yeah, huge.
The champion was 6.5 points. A minor hero was 36 points, and a major hero was 84 points. Yes, there was points. It was you did build your armies off that, but it kind of like back then, them early days, it was you just got models on the table and just you pushed your models around, you rolled your dice, which is great fun. It kind of just the whole it being balanced it just didn't matter. It wasn't a thing back then.
So sort of dragging you back to the story, how did the Skaven sort of develop during this story, or did they? Because you said the background is very similar to now.
Yes. So so a lot of people that were kind of are into Skaven lore would know about the whole story of the Tower of Kasvar. and the 13 tolls, and the humans and the dwarves built the tower, and the 13th, then a stranger turns up and there's 13 tolls of the bell, and that he finishes, or this thing finishes the tower overnight, and then that becomes effectively Skaven blight. Yeah. It depending on how you understand it, but that wasn't in this law. That hadn't been developed yet. So they kind of.
So this is a precursor to much more to come.
Yes. So this was really a kind of about the Skaven were there, and they were all over the old world. They were everywhere. They were Lustria. They were Telia. They were everywhere. Stalia. But they were kind of underground and hidden away and doing their own thing. And they were agents of chaos, and in this original they were very much agents of chaos. They were their own kind of chaos faction, and I know they are now, but chaos back then was quite. It wasn't like everything now in war games is very structured, isn't it? Everyone has its place, is very structured, but back here it wasn't structured at all. In the sense, it was chaotic in the sense that you could interpret it how you wanted to, which was a lot of fun. So societies described here. So you had the Hornrat at the top. You had the 13 Lords of Decay, Grey Seers, Clan Scry, Clan Eshin, Clan Moulder, Clan Pestilence, and then Warlord clans. So
the clan structure is very similar.
Yeah, and so that was there from the get go, and that is kind of considering 40 years later, and that's the same. That hasn't changed. Which Workshop have really kind of held true to those original. When you look at other races and other how things have developed and changed, and especially with the Age of Sigmar and how things have become something different. High Elves going to Lumineth Realm Lords and all that kind of stuff. Skaven haven't really. They've pretty much stayed.
But this is a purely Games Workshop development, isn't it? That is their own IP, as opposed to a lot of other things which is stolen from other stuff, like a bit like Mikhail Jackson, who's one of the characters in this story.
So he's one of Heinrich Kemmler's lieutenants. He's a skeleton hero, but he's called Mikhail Jackson. He's got one glove and his hair's on fire, his skull's on fire. And back then, Games Workshop used to plagiarise everything, So when the Skaven came out, it was kind of like, I think that's what drew me into it, because I hadn't seen anything like it before. I don't think anyone had. It was really, really new.
There's also a Dalek.
Really fresh. Yes. So we'll get to the scenario in a minute, but there is some.
You haven't got too much longer, Wayne.
Right.
So
let's get. So that was the law that was covered. The models, anyone can see them online. If you put in the original Skaven models, the 19 metal ones will come up, and they're amazing sculpt. I've still got a few of them. They're incredible. So in this journal as well, there was the Vengeance of the Lichmaster, the scenario. So in this, you had so the story goes that you had a Bretonnian wizard, male wizard. So this was different back then.
Yeah.
And what he'd done, he'd gone to Skaven Blight to steal the Black Ark. So the Black Ark was an item of immense power for the Skaven, and it was kind of really plagiarised around the kind of Ark of the Covenant.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Bagranian
no Indiana Jones though.
No. So he'd gone to Skaven Blight during the Skaven festivals. No.
Okay.
Bagrian. Just Bagrian, and the model doesn't look like Indiana Jones. He looks like a wizard. So he'd gone to Skaven Blight. He'd stolen during a Skaven festival. He'd stolen the Black Ark, and then obviously the Skaven were very happy about this. So they sent out agents all across the world with a seer stone. The seer stone is basically like a device to find the Black Ark. So the nearer you get to it, the more it glows and so forth. So what happens is the two main characters in the Skaven army are called Nordum, who's a Grey Seer, same as Grey Seers are now, as a wizard, and Throt the Unclean. As anyone that kind of knows modern Skaven, Throt the Unclean was a clan Moulder hero. But in this, he wasn't. But his original form, he had 3 arms. He had a double-handed weapon and a sword. But he was a minor hero, so he was basically a chieftain. In original, he was a Chaos Ratman chieftain, and the reason he had 3 arms was nothing to do with Moulder. It was to do with it was a Chaos mutation.
Right.
So that's
even though I've heard of Throt the Unclean.
Yeah, but maybe not many people know of
Its origins.
Originally, it was nothing to do with Mulder, and then later on he became, the Mulder character. So, where the scenario starts is Nordum and the Skaven and Frot have found Bagrian. They found him hiding away in his monastery, which just is on the outskirts of Bretonia, with a few warrior monks, and they've laid siege to the monastery. So this is basically the first battle of the Maison Tell, which is anyone that's played Warhammer Total War would probably played the grander version of this. Was a small church, if you like, in the wilds. When Heinrich Kemmler turns up, the battle's already been raging for a while between the Skaven and the Bretonian monks and Bagrian, and the monastery's half destroyed, and their forces are both somewhat depleted. The reason that Kemmler's there is because he's got a score to settle with Bagrian. Because when originally Kemmler was a very, very renowned wizard of the Empire, very well respected, but he became a bit too powerful. So the story goes that a group of other wizards from, I think it was mainly Empire wizards, basically plotted against him and joined forces and tried to take him out. They weren't successful. There was a big battle of magic, and a lot of wizards died, and Kemmler made his escape. And while he'd made his escape, the magical duel had kind of really taken out of him, and he was he'd wandered the hills for many, many years, and he was on the edge of insanity. At that point, he made a pact with the Chaos Gods because he wanted vengeance on the people that had wronged him. So they led him to a mountain pass where he found a tomb of Krell. Yes. So this is where Krell first appeared. So they found the tomb of Krell. He went in there. He did some rituals. He rose Krell and all his mighty legions, and then that was Kemmler's army to wreak havoc.
So the Chaos Gods made him a necromancer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Krell was, even though now he was undead, he was a Chaos Lord.
Yeah.
So this is where you get that kind of. Well, you wouldn't get that nowadays. Yeah. You wouldn't get that nowadays, but it's very kind of It was that he made a pact with the Chaos Gods, but he was a necromancer. So he turns up to settle the score with Bagrian. So. And then that's when the scenario starts. The battle's already raging. Kemmler turns up on the scene, and then it becomes a three-way battle. So, what's interesting about it is Bagrian has not only stolen the Black Ark, but he's also stolen other stuff, which is very un-Bretonian like. It's all down in the cellar that's below the abbey. So part of the game is that when you get down. Because back then there used to be a kind of bit of role-playing element to it as well. So when you get down and you get into the abbey and you get down below, there's a place that basically you roll and you see what you find in the thing. But to get to that, to actually get the goodies, you've got to get past the mechanical warrior.
The Dalek.
The Dalek, right? So the mechanical warrior has its own set of stats. And it looks, the artwork for it is basically a Dalek. Yeah. So again, the plagiarising of, but Games Workshop back then, they had the rights to do Doctor Who figures and Judge Dredd figures and all that. So they used to use a lot of this stuff. So kind of in this journal, you kind of had, you had the models, you had the lore, and you had the scenarios. So actually, when you're picking up for the first time and you're going through it, it's incredible. It just ticked all the boxes, and it's always. Yeah. And it's always been something that's stuck with me. And also, there's another reason why I love Heinrich Kemmler, because it was like my first. Even though there'd been scenarios previously, it was actually my first proper introduction to him. So then I wanted to know more about him. So they're kind of like, they go hand in hand. And I have to say, if you ever get a chance to see the Citadel Journal Spring '86 cover, it's a John Blanche cover, and it's incredible.
And I'm sure people could find that online. I managed to find the articles online as well. So. Yeah,
it's absolutely it's an amazing piece of artwork. John Blanche has done lots of incredible pieces of artwork, but it's called Bagrian's Doom. The actual piece of art, it's incredible. If you get a chance, check it out.
Great, thanks, Wayne. Lovely to see your enthusiasm still there after all these years.
I love my rats.
D&D Diaries.
Welcome to our Curse of Strahd campaign, a delightful little excursion into Barovia, a place best described as gloomy with occasional screaming. I'm Paul, the Dungeon Master, responsible for maintaining an atmosphere of dread and ensuring no one has too much fun. Joining me in this are some brave souls who, despite the clear warnings, insisted on coming along. So we've got Paul R. as Can-Do, who approaches danger with calm confidence of someone who hasn't really read the module or any of the background. We've got Paul B as Stumpy, proving that halflings can be both fearless and deeply confused. We've got James as Rana, the cleric who has already seemed to resign himself to disappointment. And Wayne as Throm, a barbarian whose emotional range spans from mildly irritated to enthusiastically smashing things and then falling over. So together they will attempt to survive vampires, curses and the general inconvenience of being in Barovia. Expectations are low, morale is lower, and Strahd is absolutely thrilled. Welcome aboard! This is Curse of Strahd, Session 1, Into the Mists of Barovia. A tale of fog, fire, and the first taste of dread. Can-Do warrior, a halfling ranger with eyes like storm clouds and a bow that rarely missed. Rana Brightsun, an Usimar cleric whose radiant presence made shadows flinch. Stumpy Lagar, halfling guild artisan and reluctant adventurer, more comfortable with contracts than combat. And Throm Ironaxe, a hobgoblin barbarian whose axe had tasted more steel than ale. The door creaked open. A man cloaked in mist stepped inside, his voice low and urgent. He handed them a letter, sealed, strange and summoning. "My master requires aid," he said, then vanished into the night. At dawn, the group entered Slavich woods, where the trees whispered secrets and the fog clung like cobwebs. The deeper they ventured, the thicker the mist became, until they crossed an invisible threshold. Turning back was no longer an option. The air behind them turned to choking vapour, forcing them forward into the unknown. Iron gates loomed ahead, ancient and ajar. Beyond them lay a village swallowed by the mist. The silence was broken only by the distant sound of sobbing. Two children stood in the gloom, Rose and Thorn. Rose stepped forward, her voice trembling. "There's a monster in our house. Please, help us." The house was a relic of faded grandeur. Fireplaces flickered to life only when approached. A dining table bore a feast of ethereal food, warm, fragrant, and utterly unreal. The air was thick with enchantment and unease. As they climbed to the second floor, a suit of armour sprang to life, its halberd swinging in unnatural fury. Throm took a brutal hit, his blood painting the floorboards. But before the creature could strike again, Can-Do, wide-eyed and desperate, unleashed a firebolt. The blast struck true, shattering the armour into smouldering shards. The group stood in the aftermath, breathless and bloodied. The house was far from done with them, but they had survived their first trial. The mists outside pressed against the windows like hungry ghosts. Somewhere, deeper in the house, the monster waited. So I've got Wayne here, who plays Throm.
From the useless.
Come on, he's had one fight, not hit anything, and taken a few hits. But things can only get better from here, surely. But what do you think of the makeup of the group, first of all?
I think the makeup of the group's interesting because it's originally thinking, we're gonna die in our first fight. But actually,
well, to be fair, it was quite close.
It was quite close, yeah. with Throm, with him being he is kind of sullen, sarcastic hobgoblin barbarian who's kind of like doesn't really get excited about everyone else. If anyone else around him has kind of some win or some, something good happens,
he's completely self-centered.
Yeah, he's very self-centered. Yeah, but with that,
and you play him very well.
He feels like thank you. He feels like he can, he can always win the day. He can always, and he spectacularly fails. As will be revealed in future shows. But he is, he's considering he's a barbarian and his kind of his role is to whack things hard.
And he is the only muscle in the group, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got
two halflings.
He's not great.
A fairly sort of dainty cleric. So
and to start off with Stumpy's quite surprisingly powerful. He
at the lower levels actually.
He does some damage,
but not too many precursors because we have done a few sessions.
It's an interesting group. It's an interesting makeup, and actually, but the most important thing is it's fun. The group of guys that we got together and we play, it's fun. It's
definitely not min-max.
No.
There's a fair bit of ineptitude. I'd say we've got two players who are quite skillful D&D players.
Paul B and James.
Well, I wasn't going to name any names.
I can name and shame myself. I'm very capable of doing that. So Paul B and James are capable players. They're very good with the rule books. They read it all. They do the right thing.
They take notes.
They take notes. They know their character. They know what they can and can't do with their characters. They're very good. And then you have myself and Paul R, who I would say that I'm not as bad as Paul R because he's actually fallen asleep in some of the sessions.
He's not here to defend himself, but yeah,
we've had it before. We've literally had to shout because we play on we play on Roll20, and we've had to shout down the thing to wake him up, which has been hilarious.
Yeah, and I'd like to say it was in a different country on the other side of the world, but it was actually in Belgium, which is even on a different time. Time
He'd obviously
scale.
had a long day at work, and he was feeling a bit tired, but that's quite funny. But yeah, I like simple characters. I tried in another campaign we had. I tried playing a cleric, and I was rubbish. I was awful because I had to remember stuff and do spells and healing. I kept forgetting to heal people because I kept getting in a fight and stuff like that. So yeah, it was terrible. So Barbarian does definitely. Mind you saying that, I know we're going off a bit, but we played a one-hit campaign over a day, didn't we?
Yes, we have played in person.
And I played a rogue.
We're playing the Curse of Strahd. We're playing online, aren't we?
Yeah. So this was when we played the one day hit when we all got together. I played a rogue. Oh, they are really good. Damage output was amazing. Yeah. But yeah, so Throm is in his head he's amazing. In his head he's like Conan the Barbarian. He's incredible. Yeah. But that's not what actually happens.
Yet to be revealed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a fun campaign. So hopefully everybody listening will enjoy future episodes, and that's just a really short start, our very first session.
The hobby desk.
So Wayne, talk to me about what we've got on the painting table right at the moment.
So I had a big clear out actually, in the sense that I was doing loads of terrain, obviously for our Age of Sigmar tournament. And you were doing terrain as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
So that was kind of taken up all the space. So now that's kind of been done, and I think it was 6 new tables I did.
So I finished all my terrain.
Yeah. And
now I'm doing a load of terrain for Frostgrave.
Yeah.
So I'm just covering everything in white.
Yeah.
So it's nice and easy.
It's a never-ending cycle. You move for, and that probably sums up my hobby in general. Where I just hobby butterfly. I just bounce around and I procrastinate a lot.
And never finish anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I always think, what does finished look like?
Actually, that's nonsense, because you are much better at finishing stuff than me. If you got a deadline, you like.
Yeah,
I always think you're not going to do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, right, here it all is.
Yeah, I do. I like a deadline. I do like a deadline, but I find that when I'm kind of doing a project, rather than like some people, like their project is a unit or a unit and a couple of characters, and that's where it goes. For other people, it's an army, but what they'll do is they'll have a set army list, and I'll paint that army list, and then that project's done. Whereas
you have an army list, but it's always what the worst performing things
Yeah.
are in the army.
yeah, because it's usually what models do I like, and they
yeah.
end up being the worst in the game. But yeah, that's I've been doing that forever. I don't think that's going to change. Yeah, not down to my general shipmanship at all. No, not at all. It very much is down to that. But I look at projects as so. If I pick up an army book and I look, always have the intention of painting everything in the army. So even like with so if I looked at say like a Warhammer army, I'd look at every single unit. I think, well, I haven't really completed this until I've done every single unit, every single character, which is a bit crazy. Because
Well, you're not
that's a big
but,
task to
but
take
what
on.
you don't want to do is you're not. I'm a bit the same. Is you don't want to just spam the same stuff because it's boring to actually hobby it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's that whole, and obviously where we've been playing Oathmark recently, and has a very unique army building system where it's effectively, even though it's different races for different armies, you can pick your terrain and you can kind of mix and match how you want, which is really it's great because you can just do a unit of humans, do a unit of orcs and goblins and elves, and you can just do what you want. It's great. So for me, I kind of I got my no shock here, but I got my Skaven out to kind of look at what I needed to do to turn my Skaven into an Oathmark army, and what I needed
Which doesn't
to
exist, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't
No.
exist. So basically a ratman army, but fits more with the kind of the Oathmark aesthetic. So
Yeah.
so it's kind of like you haven't got all like Giselles and all the tech. It's very low fantasy, because Oathmark kind of feels more like a kind of traditional fantasy war game.
Well, the miniatures are very dark age, aren't they? So
Yeah.
it's almost like
Low fantasy.
orcs in dark age
Yeah.
armor, but actually more than the orcs, it's the other races like the elves are not like they haven't got extravagant armor, have they?
No, it's all. I'd say it more leans towards sort of the Lord of the Rings kind of feel.
Yeah.
It's probably best. Gives an idea of what it's like. So I wanted to sort of do ratmen. So they weren't really Skaven, but do ratmen. But so basically, I've been working on that, converting up some archers, some ratmen archers, and I've made an Oathmark style army list for the ratmen, and I'm working on a bit of sort of a lore for them, which is going to be different to Skaven. It's going to fit more with Oathmark. So basically, I've been putting that together. I've been doing a bit of painting, finished that, but then I got distracted, and then
Really?
I started painting some orcs, which are the actual the Oathmark orcs, like the official ones. I love the Oathmark kits. I know for some people it's almost like, don't get me wrong, Games Workshop make amazing models and they're very detailed and they're fantastic. But I do love a modular kit where you can, especially with the Oathmark models, you can chop and change.
Well, you can with those models, and thinking about like the same company make the Frostgrave models.
Yeah.
You could mix and match everything, can't you? I mean, one of the things I've done is I've done a Frostgrave 10 models for Frostgrave, and I've used the wizard sets, the female wizard sets, and I've mixed in the knights and the soldiers, and I've just mixed things together, and you end up with really unique.
Yeah.
And
the kits are designed to do that, aren't they?
Yeah, and they all fit with each other.
Yeah.
So you just like pick an arms out of one thing, a head out of another thing.
Yeah.
It's just kit bashing it. But the Oathmark stuff fits really well with it because it's made by the same company. And I've heard that the
North Star Minis.
Yeah. And I've heard that Atlantic
Wargames
Atlantic, their stuff fits really well with it as well.
Yep.
So I think that's the freedom you get as opposed to the GW, where because of the way they're made, you have to build it in a certain way, and doing any sort of kit bashing is you've got to really butcher the models in order to be able to do it.
Yeah, well, example of that, I looked at the new Skaven Clan Rats.
Which are beautiful.
They are, they're lovely models. But I thought, I'll make some archers out of those. But you can't really, because the shields are moulded into the model.
Yeah.
And when you build them in one way. So there's unless you're going to kind of crack out the green stuff and start resculpting stuff, it's a very there's easier ways to do it, or say more enjoyable ways of doing it. So I ended up taking some plague monks and then taking some Oathmark orc bow arms and just playing around with stuff, and I've made a unit of 10, and I'll paint those up and see how that goes. Then I've been painting orcs. now I've started painting. So I had a lot of Lord of the Rings orcs, like Morannon orcs and Mordor orcs, and I thought, you know what, they'd be perfect for Oathmark goblins.
Yeah.
So I started repainting those, and they do look a bit different because I've thrown a bit of colour into them because I thought I've painted so much. So when you paint Lord of the Rings stuff, it's the majority, especially painting evil armies, it's so drab.
But that's the fault of the films, isn't it? Because actually, if you actually read the books, there's a lot of vivid colours described in the books,
and a lot of the earlier artwork is very colourful.
But the feel of the sort of, for want of a better phrase, grimdark Lord of the Rings feel to it, which was great for the movies, but it's made a lot of the painting of the Lord of the Rings stuff. It's quite hard to make them. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
It is. It's quite a dull experience painting them because you're effectively kind of you might put a little bit of red on a clothing or something, but the rest of it's browns and blacks.
Especially the evil.
Yeah, it's quite dull. It's quite dull painting. So I've been jazzing them up by injecting a bit of colour on the shields and some of the clothing, and they don't look like Lord of the Rings orcs anymore. Definitely not. But they do kind of fit with the rest of the army I'm doing for Oathmark. So I've quite enjoyed doing that. Do you know, since I don't really play tournaments anymore, or very rarely, not having the deadlines of constantly kind of like painting a new unit for an army or so that, and just having that kind of freedom to just paint what you want when you want it is, which I'm sure for a lot of people out there that's the normal, but actually having that now is great.
But I can understand people who really struggle then to have the motivation to just generally hobby.
Yeah.
Because like even the Frostgrave thing, I set myself a target that I wanted to paint myself a Frostgrave warband.
Yeah.
So that was the completionist in me wants to do that, even though I'm not particularly good at finishing stuff. But I quite enjoyed just putting together a Stormcast army and just going, right, I'm going to just paint this as fast as I can. And I had a tournament that I was aiming for.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I kind of like both. Rather, I like the freedom to be able to paint what I want, but I know that if I've got that deadline, it does really help me to be more productive.
I suppose it depends on the project as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because obviously if you've got let's just say a Stormcast force where the majority of it, say 20-25 models, and you're focused on getting that done, I suppose if I look back to when I was playing like fantasy battle tournaments, and it was, if I wanted to add a new unit, it was like just a new unit, it's like, I don't know, 30, 40 models or something like that, or a new army. It's a big project to take on. So I do like hobby butterflying around different stuff. And also, I like mixing it up with a sense that, if I'm doing, printing scenery and painting it, or hand making scenery, or painting models for different games, even though it's all hobby you're doing, because you're doing it for different things, it feels like you're doing something different. Psychologically, it feels like you're doing something different, but you're not. You're just hobbying all the time. So I've got a mix of stuff at the moment. I'm just deciding whether I'm going to rebase my Wild Riders on 25 by 50s or leave them on the 40 rounds. I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
Yeah. And I'm painting a crazy warlord for my Japanese Oathmark. Japanese-inspired Oathmark army. So I've got one of the... I forget the name. Is it Champions? I forget the name of the...
Conquest, isn't it?
Conquest, yeah. And they're obviously huge models, but they work really well for the big character models.
Yeah, they're lovely models as well.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because it's nice to do a big character model.
Yeah. Your feudal, I'd say it's like a feudal Japan army, isn't it?
Yeah,
Japanese
and I'm
army
using it for Oathmark.
And it does look great. It's got
It's
loads of colour as well.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I can paint like all my bright colours and stuff. So,
very nice.
Yeah. Right, great. Well, it's great to hear what you've been hobbying. And we've only actually just touched the side because we've done loads lately for one reason or another.
We do hobby a lot.
Yeah. Right, well, that's a wrap on our first episode of the Paul and Wayne Show. Well done, Wayne.
Well, thanks for everyone for listening.
Yeah.
And we'll be back soon with more rambles.
More rambles. You can, if you want to look at some of the hobby we've been doing, you can look at Instagram under UG Hobby. Don't forget to check out our website where you can find out lots of things we've been doing, and that is ughobby.com. And then there was something else I was going to say. Oh, YouTube channel. Guess what? It's Ugg Hobby.
Yeah.
So UGHOBBY. We will see you next time.
Bye bye.